Welcome to No Limits to Success, the podcast that empowers you to break barriers and achieve your dreams. Hosted by Les Moyer, this show brings you inspiring conversations with trailblazers who redefine success in business and life. Les interviews guests ranging from startup founders to industry titans, uncovering their hard-won wisdom, innovative strategies, and the mindset that propelled them to extraordinary heights. Get ready to unlock your potential and discover that in the world of success, there truly are no limits.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am absolutely thrilled joining us today, remarkable businesswoman, Hacia Atherton. I don't like to say businesswoman, a business person who happens to be a woman, because phenomenal understanding. We've had some amazing conversations in the past, and I just want to bring her knowledge, her point of view to this. She's a true trailblazer who's taken adversity and turned it into action after surviving a devastating accident several years ago. Unable to walk, defied all odds, went to run a half marathon. It's beyond my imagination. She's an inspiration to me. And then she's channeled that courage into something even bigger. Hacia is the founder of Empowered Women in Trades. She's an entrepreneur. She's been the CEO of one of the biggest plumbing, or the biggest plumbing company in Australia. And now she's shifting to something even bigger. She's now consulting for multiple companies in Australia, building that and taking it to the US, the Empowered Women in Trade. So she's equipping many people with the energy she has, the knowledge she has, and helping them to be lifted up. She's been named number one of the world's most disruptive women. I think that's fantastic. In short, she's a force for change, and I know you'll be inspired by her journey as I am, and I'm privileged to call her a friend. Welcome, Hacia.
Thank you so much. It's so great to have this chat with you on air. We have amazing chats off air, but happy to have a chat on air now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I am inspired by you, your resilience, and what's happened. Look, 2017, you, as I mentioned, you've had a horrific horse riding accident. Can you maybe go through that and then talk about maybe the journey of recovery, what it taught you about resilience, and how it's shaped you to tackle the challenges in your business and life?
Yeah. So rewinding back to 2017, my goal was chasing the green and gold jacket. So my dad sailed for Australia, and I'm not a very good sailor, but I had that passion in dressage. And so I was training with my young horse, and she decided it was a great opportunity to have a go at role reversal. So after all of those years of me sitting on top of her, she reared up vertically. I fell off, and her back legs kind of gave way, and she landed on top of me. All 600 kilos of her landed on top of me. So in that moment, it's like life slows down. Somehow I tapped into superpower, super strength. I was able to wiggle my way out from underneath her, because I knew when she stood up, I would have gotten trampled as well. So somehow I managed to get out from underneath her, flip over onto my stomach, and army crawl out of the way so that she didn't trample me. And I just remember like collapsing into the sand a few meters past her. I couldn't move either of my legs at the time, and just this wave of emotion, pain, fear just hit me. And I was like, okay, life as I know it has literally just ended, and I had no idea what the next steps were going to look like. I got airlifted to Alfred Hospital. When the helicopter doors opened up and I just saw a wall of white coats, I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. This is not good. And yes, I got informed that basically I had crushed my pelvis. So the pubic bone in the back of my pelvis needed to be rebuilt. I had severe fractures through ball and socket of left and right hip, as well as severe nerve damage to my right leg, nerve damage again to my bladder, my stomach, So a lot of things, fractured coccyx bone, as you can imagine, 600-kilo horse, a lot of crushy. So worked for my first surgery. I've had over 30 surgeries since, and the first surgery went for a little over 9 hours. And I worked from that with the surgeon, basically saying he's done everything he could do in that surgery. The more he worked, the more the bones fractured, so he had to stop. And basically 6 months in hospital, 3 months non-weight bearing, and we'll see where that goes. But walking in any kind of meaningful way is going to be not something that's highly likely to happen. And I need to adjust to learn how to live in a wheelchair and walking aids, and definitely a high-flying athlete career was gone.
I can imagine that would just feel like you're having your life ripped away from you. It would have been a life-changing.
Very much so. So many people think it is the physical pain that was the worst. That definitely not. When you are trapped in a hospital bed and you cannot move, literally, if I dropped something on the floor, I would have to call the nurse to come pick it up. If my glass of water was put a centimetre too far from me to be able to reach, I just had to stare at the glass. So your body literally becomes like a prison, a coffin. And you're stuck with your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings. You have no way to escape it. So the reality of being human really hits you very, very hard in those moments. And it was the challenge to start to go, okay, I'm so disconnected from the world, me proactively going out to the world, but the world still comes to me. In hospital, you're not left alone for 30 minutes. You've always got someone coming with you. So instead of feeling like, because I felt isolated, I was isolating from people, I decided, okay, when people came into my room, let's proactively connect with them, ask them questions, get curious about them, form relationships with the people that are coming to me. Just because I couldn't go to them didn't mean that life had to stop. And then slowly, I pulled myself out of that depression.
I love that, because it's like I think really in life you have really deep moments of choice, and the fact that you made a choice to connect versus withdraw, there's a whole lot of times that matters, and it resonates. Like, you don't have to necessarily go through that to have those moments of choice, but to move forward. But it's just a great example, and thank you for sharing that. Keep going, please. It resonates with me so deeply.
Yeah, and it's true, that moment of choice. Like, I was in my darkest moment and I chose to be the sunshine for other people. And that was like, how can I make them laugh? What kind of stupid joke could I come up with? Or I would get on Google and be like, top 10 worst dad jokes, and I could see like how many laughs I could get in the day. And that was that choice. And I was in darkness. Other people's darkness could be because of a loss of a loved one, or a divorce, or a loss of a job. Darkness comes into your life not necessarily because you got crushed by a horse. And in that moment, we can choose to show up and be sunshine for our lives, or we can choose to lock ourselves away in our misery and our darkness. And that's 100%, you have autonomy over that choice. And as soon as I chose to be the sunshine for other people, my life changed. I was laughing more. I found more joy in the simple things of just when the sun came into my room and I had that 2-hour window where the sun got to shine on my hospital bed, how much joy that brought me, how good it felt. But before I made that choice to be proactive and really lean into the concepts of positive psychology, the sunshine would come and I would be like, I can't get outside and enjoy that. And it would be nice to be able to go for a walk in the sunshine. And I was almost angry that the sun was shining on me. But as soon as I changed my mindset, I looked forward to that 2 hours. I bathed in that sunshine. I felt it just bring warmth into my body and my soul. Now, the sun did the same thing every single day. What was different is how I had that relationship for that 2-hour window.
Oh, I love that. We've talked in the past, and I hope you're happy with me bringing this up, but we've chatted about, even when you were moving out of that point, like there's that moment, there's obviously continual challenges. Sometimes other people put perspectives on it, and we pick them up, right? Around, you can't do something, or that there's this limitation to what we do. And you've eventually blown past that, sometimes with other people's help, and then you learn the strategy around that, and I can see that now you're moving into help other people do that. Just walk me through that for a bit, because I think that's inspiring too.
Yeah, very much. We really don't know them ourselves. So for someone else to put a cage around us is ridiculous, because we don't even understand where our limitations are. And when we find them, are they solid limitations or one that we can keep pushing? And that's that concept of like that 1% edge that you have. And when you come up to a limitation, whether it's running 5K, okay, we'll run 5K and 5 meters. Can you do that? Can you run 5K and 100 meters? And then all of a sudden you're running 6K. It's always that little push until you get to that real hard edge of like, no, this is just my edge. I can't physically or mentally do anything more. But when anyone's ever kind of put those limitations around me, I just always thought like, I don't even know what I'm capable of as a human being, whether that's academically, whether that's physically. It's amazing. And I learned that from dressage. It's like, well, I don't know how far I can push myself as a dressage rider or push my horse. And that's always going, let's try for one more flying change, or let's try for one more of that kind of movement that we were studying, and eventually we got it perfect, and then we go into the next one. So limitations.
Yeah, you know what I love about that too is when you go to the next one, when you move to that next one, that the previous ones look easier.
Exactly.
Right? It's because it just becomes muscle motion, or just becomes part of what you do.
Yeah.
And then you've got a new limit. But sometimes when we're facing those limitations, though, especially in our own heads, it feels like a real barrier. Once it's broken through, like the 4-minute mile, right? It becomes this thing that, oh, it's not a limit anymore, and it's just normal. And I love that every time we move to that next level, it becomes that way.
And what I've really learned since the accident, with everything that I've done with psychology, with women in trades, with just studying, I guess, humans are very, very good at external opinions. We're very good at judging other people. We're very good at putting our opinions, our limiting beliefs and thoughts on other people. We're not very good at looking in the mirror and looking at ourselves. So when people would put those cages around me, whether it's getting women into trades, whether a female can lead a plumbing company, whether it's I can walk again, I just really thought, that's your limiting belief. That's your opinion. And that's the cage that you've put your universe in. So that says everything about you and nothing about me. I'm going to go look in the mirror. I'm going to spend time externally understanding who I am, what is my values, what is my walls, what is my do's and don'ts. And then I just got like fascinated with how far can I push my body? And that is how far I can push my mind. It's definitely mind over matter. So yeah, that's kind of, it's just that 1% pushing yourself, getting really curious about yourself and really sitting there with an objective. Okay, I feel this way, whether it's a physical or an emotional feeling. That's interesting. Where is that coming from? Is that come from a seed that someone else has planted in my mind, whether that's society of women, what women can and can't do, or what role men need to play in our world? Like, is this something that is homegrown to me? Or I like to call it like, is this a weed that someone else has planted in my garden? And we can grow and harvest our own psychological gardens the way that we want. And we have that control to rip things out, replant things. And I just really go through that kind of filter process when I feel that imposter syndrome or self-doubt, which happens all the time. I sit there and go, hey, is this me talking to me, or is this someone else that's put this voice in my head? And if that's the case, I tell that voice to F off. If it's me talking to me, it's like, why are you being so cruel to yourself? Would you say this to someone else?
Yes, absolutely. And the same thing. I think that a lot of the time, and it's an image that comes up because of the persona that successful people hold, I guess, and it's an inner confidence a lot of the time, but they don't see the inner struggles and the fact that each time we're going to a new level as well, that there is that same challenge, but what we're doing is we're making and we're pushing into it, right, rather than stepping back. And I think that's around the mindset. And same thing, like asking, is this truth for me actually true, right?
Yeah.
Is it reality, or is it just an excuse, a reason, or one of these things that I'm framing that's looking like a block, or is there a way around it? Love that. And that's the
truth
thing
can
too.
be in the
Sorry?
moment. Our truth change as we learn, as
Absolutely.
we grow. Our truth always changes. And look, our brains are wired to keep us safe. It wants us in our comfort zone. It doesn't want you getting 1% better. It wants you staying safe in the predictable patterns that it knows. So as you go and grow, you've got to fight yourself. Your worst enemy in anything is always going to be yourself.
Absolutely. And like you say, your brain protects you from the uncomfortable and the unknown, right? And there is always going to be resistance going there. One thing that I've learned, and I know you're aware of too, is what can help is having somebody in front of you who's trod the path before, right? And you help other people and mentor. How would you say that you've gone through that, and that now you give other people that?
Yeah, that's what I love so much. And I even started that unofficially in hospital. I remember being that kind of cheerleader in the rehab. And I'm like, come on, if I stand another 10 times, you stand 20 times if they've done like a hip replacement or something like that. And they can push their bodies further as well. So it was always something that I look forward to, getting into that rehab room and be like, how can I inspire everyone in this rehab room to push that 1% harder? Because that made me push my 1% harder as well. So now that I'm doing that more in a professional space and a professional career, it's really rewarding to really help those leaders that I work with pull down the brick walls they've built around themselves and understanding where that's come from. And a lot of it's a protection mechanism. We do that to protect ourselves. We do that because we feel that's what we have to do to be successful as well. A lot of leaders feel like they have to isolate themselves because they're the top of the tree. And therefore they have to put these walls up between them and their team because they have to be seen as this like perfect, have all the answers.
The false perception of perfection.
Leading from the front. So I really work with leaders to understand what leading from the middle looks like. And that's, again, becoming a cheerleader. If you have a C in front of your name, any chief officer, you're not a chief, you're a coach. You're there to really coach, guide, lead, pull the best version of your team out of that team member. So you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to have like empathy, curiosity, coaching skills, and be able to guide and navigate your team in the direction that the organization wants them to head to. And I think especially a lot of men that I work with, they feel such pressure to have all the answers, and the isolation and the loneliness the men I work with, it's just heartbreaking because we're human beings. We need to connect, and especially men, they need to connect with others. And so many male leaders are just isolated in their careers, and it's really sad.
I think that's so true. And really, I think coming from and it's still an old school thought, which is again that holding that space, being the perfect one, the leader, and it's a false perception of leadership. I talk about the misunderstanding of alpha, right? I talk about wolves and the way they are, because at the end of the day, the alpha is not the one who makes the most noise. They're not the one that actually tries to do everything and be the one. They're the ones who lift everybody else up. And the misconception is around true leadership is true leaders are vulnerable. They know their weaknesses. They share their weaknesses, and what they do is they find others' weaknesses and others' strengths, and they work as a team. They bring everybody together to raise everybody at once, and and the other story is that they eat last, and there's a whole perception around that, is that the team is the highest value. And you talk about, I know you have an idea that those around you are like family. Tell me more about that.
And I know you get a lot of, in the corporate world, there's also people that are like, oh, it's a red flag if a leader or someone says, we're like family here, because corporate has exploited that concept. But for me, Family is the ones that you're honest with. Families are the ones that you can have conflict with but bond afterwards. If you have a fight with your brother or sister and it's that raw kind of very honest often, and you show up as your authentic self, usually when you're engaging with a lot of family members. But then at the end of the day, whether it's, again, at a cousin's birthday party or 3-4 weeks after the fight, you come back and you reconnect and you bond. And when I think about like family and building a family and the leadership thing, it's showing up and respecting people as you would with that family concept. And through that respect is actually talking to them with honesty, with real open honesty. What's going on? Not rudeness, with respect, but with honesty. Yes. And then when there is conflict in work as a leader, how are you focusing on the reconnection? Because conflict is normal, whether you're in a relationship with a partner, whether it is family, whether it's humans. We have difference in opinions, but it's how you reconnect after that conflict. And that's when I talk about family and that leadership is exactly that. As well as family, you go and fight for family. I know 100%. My siblings, I will probably say some unkind things to them, but if someone said something unkind to my siblings, I would go and defend them. And as leaders, that's what we have to do. We can have our own opinions about our team. We can give our team critical feedback and all of that kind of stuff. But externally, we have to protect them like family and be the mama bears or the papa bears that fight for them, that protect them from the mechanisms of other departments or clients or different things like that, as you would defend your own family member. Even if you thought that family member was an idiot, if someone else outside of the family was insulting them, you would defend your family. So it's all of those more kind of value sets that a family is actually built on that I think we often lose in leadership. And especially coming back to what I was saying about that honest, authentic communication that we're more likely to have with family than we are sometimes in the workplace.
I think that's 100%. And I think, again, the reverse is true with the vulnerability is you getting direct, honest feedback and being able to take it and accept it, go away, take it on, and then come back without having that wall that we put up with of anger or defensiveness. And that's what, when we can bring it and take away those walls and be honest, that's where we grow, because only honest feedback is where we learn, hey, maybe I am able to shift this. Why am I weak in this area, and move forward? And leaders have to be the most open to that. I've been through, that's why as a leader, I have my coaches, I have my mentors, is because they're the ones who give me very direct, say, you're doing the wrong thing here, or change your thinking. And it goes, okay, well, wake up. Because, and there's that, like you say, respect. You've got to be able to take that and go and be vulnerable and go, I don't know everything. Yes. And sometimes you get that from above, sometimes that you get that from below. No, it's not that they're lower than you, but those from who you are leading.
Yes, exactly. And it's, a lot of stuff I do is coaching people actually how to communicate through a respectful lens and how to take a step back and look at the different perspective. When I was the CEO, I actually printed off the image that could be a young woman or an old woman, those kind of tricky things. And anytime there was conflict, I'd bring the two people into the room, or whoever was having the conflict, I'd put that image on the table. I'd say, who sees the old woman? First of all, like, do we all agree this is the same image we're looking at? It's a black and white image. Do we all agree that it's on a piece of paper? I bring them and unite them over what we agree on, which, yes, it's a black and white image. It's on a piece of paper. Now, who sees a woman that's older? Who sees a woman that's younger? We got different perspectives about this piece of paper that's got black and white on it. So we can come to a middle ground of what's happening. And that's a really great way to take that tension out of no one's right or wrong here. There's two different perspectives of this issue that has turned into conflict. because we've forgotten there's a piece of paper with black and white on there. We've forgotten there is a ground where we all can come and agree on what is similar. Someone's gone off on the young woman tangent, someone's gone off on the old woman tangent, and they're both saying that is their truth, that is their reality, and then they're smashing heads over it.
That's right, and they're both valid, right? They're both valid. They're both different perspectives, and if we're able to bring those together, we've got more points of view and a stronger image. And that's
and we can learn
I
from
love
each
that
other's
idea.
perspectives.
That's
Because it's
right.
like, okay, you saw it from that way, I see it from this way, teach me. That's
Yes.
the other thing I really encourage leaders, show up with like, hello lesson, what can I learn? Like, hello life, what can I learn from this moment? And everything, as leaders, there's every hour in our days, there's something that we can learn from. Whether we get a shitty reply to an email, go back. Was our tone wrong? Did we deliver this email in a way that was a bit sharp or a bit short? And are they reacting to how we've used our tone of language? Especially in the trades businesses and for a lot of men that I coach, they don't necessarily go like, hi, Hacia, or hi, Les. It's just like, boom, straight into what I want. And then they get a very short, sharp reply back. I'm like, well, how did you set this up for a softer conversation? You just didn't even put their name in the email. You just come at them with a request and you wonder why it got thrown back at you. Well, it's a return serve to how you spoke to them. It's like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I don't even think about that.
Yeah, because they're only looking at it from their perspective, their point of view. I want this, and it's not about opening you up. And that's about creating good leaders, right? It's about developing that leadership, is being able to. If you a good leader will have multiple perspectives, bring them together, and then come out with the best solution. And clearly, I can talk about this with you for hours. It's so much fun, but this is what you do in All Star Consulting, I assume. You work with leaders like this. Tell me your primary goal in what you do with that consulting.
Yeah, so through All Star Consulting, we've got our P3 framework, which is people, process, and profit. And
Yes.
so basically, I will come in first and really interview the leaders, interview their direct reports, and really understand where are those roadblocks when it comes to those three pillars, and where is those fires being created from. Is that because processes aren't in place and therefore everyone doesn't know what they're doing and it's a bit of the pirates out there and they need to be more like the Navy? Is it that they just do not have right people in the leadership roles? Has the business outgrown that style of leadership that was there, and do we need to level up the leaders or actually move in new leadership that has a bit more experience because the business has grown quicker than the people can grow? And to stabilize the business, we need to get someone that can lead at that level while we're leveling up the current leadership team as well and investing in their coaching and growth as well. So really coming in and having a look at that holistic thing, almost being like a shadow CEO, coming in, sitting alongside their CEO, bringing in a fresh pair of eyes, and then outside of that is crafting the all-star team around them, going, okay, well, we need really help in your brand positioning, or you don't have a CRM, so you don't really understand what your repeat customers are, and you're just trying to go get new business all the time because you're not nurturing the customers you already have. So let's set up a CRM for you and that customer journey and that customer flow. Or again, you're getting poor quality work, a lot of callbacks and things like that. Is that a process issue or is it a people issue? And if your processes are all great, but your people are falling apart, what can we do for that? Is that, you're overtime, you're working these people 80 hours a week, and as a tradesperson, that's going to lead to mistakes because they're tired. So is it a resourcing issue? And if you're like, well, I can't put another person on, is that going back to profit? Okay, well, how come you're working your trades team 80, 90 hours a week, but you're not making enough profit to put another 3 tradespeople on? We've got a big issue here. Is that a pricing issue? So it's really coming in and just going through an Alice in Wonderland out of the eyes of curiosity, lots of question asking to find where those real bottlenecks are, and then putting an all-star team around them to remove that bottleneck, and then get the business ready for what happens with the growth that comes from removing that bottleneck. Because what I see a lot of consultants come in, they fix the problem, then the business starts growing.
But they don't prepare for the next level, right? Yeah, that's
they're
it.
Not ready. They're not ready for what happens to the business once you fix the problem.
And that's the problem, is if you've got two of those things but not the other one, it breaks as you start growing. And I love that, because like if you've got good people and good processes, you'll start growing. But if you're not profitable, you're going backwards, or you're not able to keep up with the next level and be able to implement quick enough, and put on more people, put on more trucks, whatever it might be. And then if you haven't got the right people in place, but you're profitable and your systems are right, it's just going to bottleneck again. And those things are all brilliant. And I love that you're being the leader for the leader, and helping them see from a different perspective, going in, basically going, this is reality. This is where things are missing that they might not be able to see, because as the business has grown, they can't see the holes from above, and there's a leaky ship, basically. Or I love that. That's brilliant.
And so many leaders these day and age are just firefighters. Like, they're not leading, they're just putting out fires. And that is just very, it's not satisfying for the leaders. It's draining for the teams that they're leading and stuff like that. So I love really supporting leaders moving out of that reactive state and start to respond to situations. And sometimes that, as a leader, is actually stepping back, letting your team fail and fall over, and letting them really understand the problems, instead of you going like, oh, I see this problem's about to happen, and get in there and try and fix it before it happens. And this is the hardest thing for leaders that I coach to understand. Sometimes you've got to let your team fail, and then step in there as their coach. Then you step in there, coach, and go, all right, 100%. Why do you think this happened? Where do you think you went wrong? How are you going to improve next time?
That's it. And being okay with mistakes. Because we all seem to try to attain to perfection. We talked about that earlier, but if sometimes adversity is what builds us. And if you're lifting up your team, you have to be able to give them autonomy. You can't give them autonomy but keep them safe. It's just like children, right? You just protect them too much. If you want them to be able to learn, you have to. You can tell them as much as possible, but until they've made that mistake and it hurts, and they're responsible, then that shifts things in them, and they go, okay, learning lesson. And that's about building people. So what you're training people is I think the biggest thing is actually training leaders to teach leaders, and then that way you grow, right? And I love the way that you're approaching that.
And as leaders, if your team underneath you isn't growing and evolving, you're not leading, you're using people.
That's right. And again, you're micromanaging, really. And this is, instead of solving the things that are causing the fires, you're just putting them out. And I think what ends up happening is people burn out, and they end up getting rid of the business, because it's either affecting their health, their family, all of those aspects. You and I have both seen it multiple times, and it just makes that it's just some gaps that are there that sometimes need some learning, because one thing, especially in trades, but across the board, is a lot of these leaders have come from technicians. They've never really learnt the business acumen, the business skills, and they are specific sets of skills in multiple areas. And that's the one point too, is you don't need to know everything about everything, but you need to be able to manage the people in those and lift them up as leaders. So that's a big difference.
Exactly. And I think the people that have come from the tools up, whether that's the tools out on a site, or in a finance company, the tools of being a graduate accountant, there's so much to learn from those style of leaders. And I see a lot of issues, and the reverse coaching I do with leaders that have come from what I call textbook leaders. So they've done their MBAs, they've come in and had office jobs and all of that kind of stuff, and they've never actually been out on site, or customer facing roles, or different things like that. Or if you're an e-commerce company, actually on the e-commerce website, or taking customer complaints or things like that, and they just bring in your textbook leader with all of the university degrees. Those leaders need to actually learn to unlearn a lot of stuff that they've been taught in the textbooks and get down on the factory floor, get down in the customer call center, and actually learn the business so that they can then lead the people in the business, because you can't lead from a textbook and you can't just lead from tool experience. It's a hybrid of both.
That's exactly right. And I think, like, this is again about feedback. If you're down on the factory floor where tires are getting kicked or things are getting moved, that's where you learn what makes a difference down at that level. But you can't get, after so many filters up the managers, it gets dispersed, and you need to understand aspects of your business and listen to that feedback from every level. And that can be challenging, because it's confronting at times to hear those negatives, right? But that's also where we can have huge shifts in business over small changes. So I love that you're doing that. But you, of course, you aren't just doing one thing. You're also bringing into the US, which you started in Australia, empowered women in trade. Tell me more about that, because you're looking for people to help get that off the ground right now. I know it's going to be huge, but you're just trying to put everything together. Tell me more.
Yeah, so what I love about the work we do in Empowered Women in Trades in Australia is, and this is what we'll bring over into the US, is trades is the space for humans, especially as more AIs come in. Plumbers are going to be the next millionaires, electricians, all of those kind of different things. So skilled trades is the human's job, and it will be for a very long time. Now, unfortunately, this industry, I call it 1 inch away from the Industrial Revolution. So it is quite kind of outdated in how a lot of things happen, especially their perception to the role that women and the value that women can bring into the industry as well. Now, we've seen that if we look at other industries like the finance industry, the law industry, as soon as they started to diversify the workforce, we saw a lot of uplifts in productivity, a lot of uplifts in innovation, a lot of uplifts in profitability, a lot of decreasing in fraud and all of these different things. So there is such a business argument for having a diversified workforce, a diversified sense of thought, bringing that community element in, which helps with the psychological well-being. And I don't think that it's any mystery that the most male-dominated industry in both America and Australia is the skilled trades industry, and the industry that has the most mental health challenges is the skilled trades industry, both in America and Australia. Because there's a link between that, because when you remove the skill sets that that is more of the feminized psychology of that kind of interdependence. So how do we come together and build that community feel, that sense of empathy and compassion when it comes to certain different situations? And that's not just connected to because you're a woman. That's what's called female psychology and masculine psychology. And we both have it in us. But what happens when you've got all men, the men feel a lot of pressure to stay anchored in their masculine psychology. So they don't feel that they can come and actually tap into their feminine psychology.
I agree. And I think that the communication happens in that space because that's what's predominant, right? Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So bringing more women into the skilled trades, from my point of view, really will help address the mental health issue that we see in the industry. It really help improve profitability, innovation, growth in it, looking at how we do different things, open up certain market segments to the trade businesses as well. Rightfully so. Some women,
and I think like I think it's ideal. Like if we talk about a couple of those things, is we're talking about different perspectives again, right? Mm-hmm. Because you've got mainly masculine up to this point. Well, how do we change as we bring in different perspectives? On top of that, really decision makers regard in a lot of spaces, especially on the home front in construction, so that the buyers, the decisions are with the woman's side. And yet we're backwards in the way we're thinking. We're going to create this and you can buy it, rather than going, well, what does the customer want? And so there's a whole different way of thinking around those, and innovation has just been far too long coming because it's just been a very ingrained thing in those trades. Yeah.
And innovation in certain ways. So there was an amazing example. So a woman that I know in the plumbing industry, was a bit small, so she struggled to get the ladder off the top of her van. So then she worked out, actually, if we just made a place in the floor of the van where the ladder could slide underneath, then I don't have to get it from there. And so she worked, and out of her own money, like redesigned an area and said, like, can we get this fit out for my thing so I can put the ladder in there? That got adapted across the whole fleet, which reduced back injuries, which reduced all of these different injuries that were coming between getting the ladder off the top of the van versus now the ladder is getting on the bottom. Now, that just goes to show everyone else was like, that's just how we always do it, where she was restricted by her physical build of like, well, I just can't keep doing it this way. And why should I have to? It's going to hurt my back. I'm going to think of a different way to do it. And now that has actually reduced back injuries. It's reduced a whole bunch of stuff that was coming from the ladders being on top of the vehicles.
Yes. And that I know I've worked clearly with a lot of women in trades, but interviewed them, talked to them as well. And the perspectives and the differences, because there's challenges, they find ways around it, right? And that's, again, forward thinking, but it's more around, well, how can we make this better, bigger? And I love the movement. I would love everybody to get behind you and trying to make that happen, because it's a charity in the US. We need to get awareness out there, because it's one thing that, we've got housing shortages. Well, and we've got shortages in building teams. Well, there's a whole half of society that we're not really tapping into at this point that we can upskill and be able to give them real good, healthy jobs. So
and for so many women, especially with AI now disrupting a lot of more female style of roles, especially in hospitality, and a lot of AI and robots and stuff coming into those spaces. This is a perfect time to pivot and reskill that female workforce that's getting disrupted by AI into the skilled trades, which has a lot more job security for them, potential to earn really good money as well. So there's so many benefits for women to come into the industry, as well as making the industry become a better industry where human beings can thrive. It's not a feminist argument. And I really come back to that business case. And like the stats are there time and time again that prove when you have a diversified workforce, you have increased productivity, increased psychological well-being, increased innovation, and increased bottom line. Now, yes, when you're doing the change for the first time and there's disruption, some of those things actually go into the negative for a while, because you're changing different ways of thinking, you're putting different processes in place. For example, like if you've never had sanitary items of pads or tampons in your first aid kit, and now you're stocking that up, that is an increased expense that you didn't have before. So going through the change, and leaders that are evolving their workplaces, sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, but that's because you're often having to deconstruct something so that you can rebuild it in the long run.
I agree, but also, the status quo is not where we need to be living. I mean, we talk about disruption. Disruption is actually a positive thing for the business. It's what puts you ahead of others, and that women in trades is such a positive thing, because we are diverse now. We need to be able to understand that, let go of those limiting beliefs on both sides. And I think sometimes it's the women in trade, which you are basically helping them go, well, this is not a real limitation. And it's the same with the guys. Those aren't real limitations. It's from a century ago that we learnt those things. Let's change the thinking and test it out. And you've shown very clearly that it's not just possible, but it helps the business thrive, because you've got totally different energy in there, and it just diversifies. But then talking about, getting on to my favorite subject, right? Sorry?
I was just going to add one more thing that I've really witnessed in all of the work that I've done in the skilled trades industry is, unfortunately, men have been taught to put up with poor culture and poor treatment. And that, again, go all the way back to the Industrial Revolution, where we kind of, as a society, made men the robots back then, and they didn't have a right to feel the emotions about being pretty much enslaved because the way that they had to work in the Industrial Revolution. And then from there, we've created a society where we've just taught men to toughen up and accept poor culture and not speak up as well. And you really see that in the skilled trades industry. And when we do a lot of work to improve the culture or the processes or the systems under that human lens of, is this the right way to do it for men and women? It's amazing how much it improves things for men. And it's amazing this beautiful weight that seems to come off the man's shoulders that are like, I just thought this is what I had to accept. And that's something I really, everyone that's listening to this, men and women, I really encourage us to educate the men in our lives that they don't have to accept disrespect and poor treatment. Just because that's what they've been taught to accept doesn't mean they need to accept being treated so poorly.
Oh, on top of that, and we've both had dealings with Australian charities relating to mental health, mates and trades, all the others, and I think what's really important is to be able to make a safe space as well. And I think that the old culture that has come through hasn't really done that. It's about work only. This is it. But we spend a significant, especially in the trades, more than 30% of our lives on site doing things, and it's all bottled up, and the energy we need to push harder and further and more is got more and more, and it gets internalized, and that turns into mental health problems, especially for those who are leaders, because they're carrying everybody else below them, and the weight's on their shoulders. And I've felt that before, and having safe spaces and other people to talk to around that, and creating a culture of that within a business, it creates loyalty as well, because it becomes this place of nurturing and lifting up. Obviously, being direct with people, still making sure that you're doing the things you need to do, but being able to go, okay, well, this is, like you say, like family. I can be open here. I don't have to keep everything inside. But I guess off topic, because we've talked for a very long time, not very long. I could talk hours, and we've had these chats for very long times before, but disruption. All right. And I guess this is back under a subject, and you mentioned it before. AI is shifting this world. It's just like the Industrial Revolution. We're going to come out of the other side of this totally different, and it's just the start of the wave. And what do you think about people who are waiting to start implementing AI, or what do you think the actions that people need to be thinking about now around their business?
Yeah, well, if you're waiting to embrace AI, you've pretty much got one foot in the graveyard for your business, to be honest. Every business, there's no industry, there's no business that can't be embracing AI, whether that is in your marketing, to be able to really start understanding your clients by setting ChatGPT up as one of your clients, and what's your pain points, what would be your big red emotional buttons that we need to push to be able to solve your issue, and having AI as a brainstorming person for yourself as well, to then looking at how you get efficiencies in the way that you do your processes and procedures and all of those different things. So AI is very, very important to embrace. It's very important to understand how it can literally be your co-pilot. It's not going to completely take humans out of it. What I'm excited about is it allows us to be humans. So if you can embrace AI as a leader and get it doing a lot of the grunt grinding work, the automative work, the stuff that you can outsource to the AI, that gives you as a leader more time to be the human leader, more time to have that curiosity with your team. Do a 15-minute just check-in every week, like, hey, how you going? How's the kids? And start to bring that relationship and connection that we touched base on at the beginning that I did in my hospital bed. back into the boardroom, back into the workplace and everything like that. So I'm excited because AI is going to allow humans to be humans, which means connecting with our human skill set, which is our emotional base.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that people, a lot of the smaller businesses aren't quite thinking the way the big businesses are. They're thinking AI is Chat GPT or Grok or Claude, and they're using these chats. But when I'm talking about integration of AI throughout their business, throughout their processes, throughout their customer relationships, actually integrating it in to augment humans, to be able to, like you said, anything that's repetitive should be able to be done by a process that's AI'd, right? And then if we can do that, and we really focus on the customer experience and hit those points where we need to relate to the customers, where we need to relate to our contractors, our vendors, or even within the business, those are the points where we accelerate, and we just, it's the opportunity right now for people to go to blow up, you can be small business, lean, tight, and accelerate and be so much bigger because of AI. But if you leave it a couple of years, if you're not acting now, investigating and thinking how this can be integrated, then it'll take years to catch up. And if you ever able to, yeah.
Oh, AI is leveling the playing field.
Yeah.
Very, very much. It's also changing how we think and look at business, how we think and look at the values that humans bring into the workplace as well. And it's an absolute game changer that I think is going to knock over the current kind of hierarchical landscape of businesses. To a very kind of flat one. And all of a sudden, a little startup consulting firm can really take on the PwCs of the world quite quickly in that space. So it's a huge disruption. It's something that we just need to be able to understand as well. And again, like when I was learning to walk again, my biggest enemy or my biggest threat was my pain. So I studied everything I could around the psychology of pain. So I knew how to navigate it and overcome it. Now, if you're not having AI in your business, unless you live under a rock, you'll be engaging with AI somehow, somewhere, whether it's a customer, whether it is a vendor, whether it's a contractor. So if you don't have an understanding or a knowledge of it, then you all of a sudden have got all of these enemies around you that have AI, and you don't understand how to engage and how to play the game. Whether you want to use it in your own business or not, that's a personal choice. But if you do not understand it, then you're going to be getting into the ring of business with one hand tied behind your back.
Absolutely. And it's about, if you think about the difference that the internet made, computers made, mobile phones made, AI is going to be bigger than all of those in the shifts that it has. And trades, yes, you'll have them on site, and sometimes we've got this thinking that, oh well, my job is this, but all of the other aspects of your business, if you can't make it as fast and as lean as possible, yes, there's somebody else is going to. And the big corporates, like we have it all around us. We have it actually while we're doing what we're doing now. We've got AI, monitoring things. We've got it in Netflix. We've got it in, all the big corporates have it, and it's going to make its way down. It's about whether people embrace the next move or not. I love it. Look, I think that I love all your idea of all-star consulting. I think it's building that team, building the human part. Let's build the systems. Everything all together will accelerate people who are listening to this. Think about it. Reach out. So how can they connect with you, Hacia? We will put everything in the comments as well, but
yeah, so LinkedIn's a great way to connect with me, or Instagram. So Hacia Atherton on both LinkedIn and Instagram is always a great way to connect with me because, I'm back and forth between America and Australia. So it's hard to tell what time zone I'm on. So those are probably the best platforms at the moment to reach out to me.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it has been wonderful. I have hopefully you've given us so much value, and I just thank you again. hopefully we'll catch up soon. I look forward to it. And hopefully everybody enjoyed that brilliant inspiration. Hacia Atherton, thank you.
You're so welcome. And just, never give up. Keep on going, everyone.
Absolutely. Bye.